Okay, this is a special meeting of the City Council, so there is only one period for public comments. That's the blue sign-in sheet in the back, and we'll be picking that up about halfway into the first speaker's time. The veto is the only subject for public comment. So we are to public comment on agenda items, and the first speaker is Vanessa Schaefer, followed by Loretta Stanaway.
Thank you, and as you come forward, again, the only comment that we are allowing tonight is dealing with the veto. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Schaefer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Old Town Commercial Association. I'm here to offer my support for the increased staff capacity for the Department of Neighborhoods and Civic Engagement. I have been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to participate in many of the programs that are facilitated by this office, including Walking Wednesdays, the Love Lansing celebrations, and citizen feedback forums. I've been able to talk firsthand at these events with citizens from all over the city about the effort being put forth from this department and was delighted to hear universally positive feedback, as I am a firm believer that strong neighborhoods build strong cities. When you break down what it is that will make the city continue to grow, social capital has to be at the top of the list. We have a citizenry that is full of hope and energy and needs someone to put connections in place so that we can continue to grow. And it's when you bring organizations together that social capital grows exponentially. I've seen the pride on people's faces, and I've heard it in their voices as they talk about their neighborhoods and are looking to do more. They are much more invested today now than in the past because there is someone out there advocating for them, creating new partnerships, and helping them to strengthen those relationships. They feel empowered as they now have an accessible, dedicated place to go with questions and concerns relating to their neighborhood that has the capacity to create change based on the fact they are directly connected to City Hall. I was also able to participate in the Age-Friendly Lansing Plan on the volunteerism subcommittee. Folks in Lansing want to volunteer and are looking for someone to guide them and connect them with opportunities. They are ready to build capacity and have a collective desire to see Lansing grow and engage all of its residents to showcase what a fabulous city it is. This department's dedication to serve Lansing is imperative to accomplishing the goal of building social capital. They have made amazing progress this first year, and the future is full of possibilities. They will, however, be hindered if the department is not funded at the requested amount, as there is only so much they can do without additional personnel. I will leave you with my notion that clearly police, fire, infrastructure, and financial stability are all very important to our city, but if we don't continue to invest in the citizens of this community, all the rest will be for naught. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Loretta Stanaway and then David Weiner.
I will again repeat some of the things I said during the Committee of the Whole, in conversations with the public and postings on Facebook and in other media sources, and just day-to-day encounters with everybody. The continuous and overwhelming sentiment that I hear constantly is that the public wants every single dime possible spent on roads and sidewalks, police and fire, code, and those sorts of things, versus any new programs, any new initiatives, any new positions, any salary increases, anything else. The continuous drumbeat is fix the roads. Don't spend a dime anywhere else other than those priority issues until those priorities are under control. So I am in favor of overriding the veto, and the public that I have contact with would support that as well. And it's entirely possible to do the things that they want to do in that department through the use of volunteers and interns. It doesn't require a paid position to do it. I do think that bringing in a CFO is the correct way to go, and it just seems to fly in the face of that logic to go and spend $60,000 that you don't need to spend. When you do get to the hiring of the CFO, I hope that you look very strongly at someone out of the area who has no personal axes to grind and has no personal or political agendas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have David Weiner, followed by Emily Frankman.
Hi, I'm David Weiner, board member of the Southside Community Coalition. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to council on the issue of the staffing for the Department of Neighborhoods and Community Engagement. I realize that it's difficult to meet all the needs of the city with limited resources, and I don't presume to have any wisdom for how council and the mayor should set priorities. However, as a beneficiary of the work of the department in question, I want to go on record before the council and the public in praising the work of the department in regards to the neighborhood surrounding West Holmes and Pleasant Grove. I have, as most of you know, been involved with the Southside Community Coalition from its beginning 18 years ago. In the past 2.5 years, with significant leadership and assistance from Andy Crawford and the department, our area of the city has seen new energy and creative development, and I want to acknowledge the work of Bob Johnson prior to his leaving, helping initiate the Southside planning effort and setting the groundwork for the work that's come afterward. As you know, we have, with the help of the department, under Andy's leadership, raised over $500,000 to build a soccer field, a playground, and coming soon, a walking trail. And we have other plans for the new city park. In addition, the department, under Andy's leadership, has helped initiate the Southside Action Group, which has secured funding for developing a town square and refurbishing the old shopping plaza at our intersection. Also, the department has been a major partner, along with the Ingham County Health Department, the Lansing School District, Sparrow Health Systems, and the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, in studying the health needs of the low-income areas of our city and in developing a guideline for improving health care in the southwest quadrant of the city. Furthermore, and again with the support of the department, several of our neighborhood organizations are seeking funding through a Kresge Foundation grant to explore and pilot innovative housing and health-related programs in low-income areas of our community. So in conclusion, I have seen great energy and creativity in the Department of Neighborhoods and Citizen Engagement under the leadership of Andy Crawford, and I would assume that with an additional staff person, the work that we collectively, as well as other neighborhood organizations, have been doing can be expanded throughout the city. And I have copies of my statement if you wish to have it.
Okay. Angie will grab them. And then, Peter, if you could.
Thank you. Next, we have Emily Frankman and then Joan Nelson.
Good evening. My name is Emily Frankman. I'm the president of Prospect Place neighborhood, but I'll be speaking on behalf of Jenny Grau, one of our neighbors, who wrote a letter. Dear Lansing City Council members, as a former executive director of the Lansing Neighborhood Council and someone who has spent years supporting and developing volunteer neighborhood leaders, I strongly encourage you to support the mayor's budget request to fully fund the Department of Neighborhood and Civic Engagement. Leveraging volunteer time and talent is a high-impact, low-cost way to enhance Lansing's quality of life. Volunteers work in our neighborhoods, faith communities, hospitals, schools, and libraries. They grow produce for our food bank, repair homes with Habitat for Humanity, coach Little League, and deliver meals to seniors. Neighborhood volunteers in particular strengthen the social fabric of Lansing. They enhance the curb appeal of our community, provide additional eyes on the street, and they know which elderly, injured, or ill neighbors need help. These volunteers are trusted liaisons between their neighbors and city services. While neighborhood volunteers can be productive on their own, they are far more productive with support. Volunteers typically have jobs, family obligations, and sometimes educational responsibilities. Small obstacles can derail a project or cause a volunteer to step down. New leaders are reluctant to step forward without someone to guide them. Even the most capable volunteers appreciate the resources and networking provided through the Department of Neighborhood and Civic Engagement. Supportive staff identifying project resources or making key introductions can be the difference between a project succeeding or failing. One person cannot do this for the entire city. A variety of innovative and impactful neighborhood projects have bubbled up across the city in the past 2 years, some in historically challenging neighborhoods. We need more of this citywide. We invest local money to match federal and state funding for roads and sewers. Investing local money for staffing to match hours of community time and talent is no different. The City of Lansing has already profited from thousands of hours of volunteer time, numerous grants, and outside investments. The Department of Neighborhood and Civic Engagement has a multiplier effect. It is time we staff our Department of Neighborhood and Civic Engagement commensurate with the impact they have had in our community. It is time to provide additional staffing to expand the impact more fully. They have earned this, and we deserve it. In closing, if you have not yet read Dar Williams' book, What I Learned in 1,000 Towns, read it. You will find a new appreciation for the economic and social value that volunteers bring to the city life. Sincerely, Jenny Grau. So, thank you.
Thank you. And council members, in your binders were a number of emails and letters, and that one was included in that. Thank you.
Next is Joan Nelson, followed by Jessica Fowler.
Good evening. My name is Joan Nelson, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Allen Neighborhood Center, serving Lansing's Northeast Quadrant, or the East Side. I'm here tonight representing the Board of Directors of Allen Neighborhood Center to reaffirm our unqualified support for the full funding of the Department of Neighborhoods and Civic Engagement, and to express our disappointment at Council's action to remove funding for a neighborhood coordinator. We've written in praise of the department's impressive and growing portfolio of work, including Walking Wednesdays, Housing and Neighborhood Resource Summits, Love Your Block, a beefed-up Mayor's Neighborhood Advisory Grants Program, Love Lansing celebrations, robust neighborhood engagement planning and implementation projects such as that referred to by Mr. Wiener a moment ago. It's incredible to me to think that a single director with an administrative assistant and the help of a few AmeriCorps has accomplished so much in so short a time. We assume that you are aware of the fact that the department actually brings funding into the city from national foundations. For instance, Invest Health, supported by the Reinvestment Fund and Robert Woods Johnson, actually brought funding critical to the ongoing development of the Pleasant Grove and Holmes Southside Community Project. Further, Andy Crawford brought Lansing into Cities of Service, an international coalition of cities, which has already helped fund the Love Your Block grant program and has provided ongoing technical assistance for the city as it builds Serve Lansing and further expands the neighborhood grants program. This is critical relationship building that leads to future funding opportunities. Many of you have been involved for literally decades in building strong Lansing neighborhoods. We say of neighborhood that it is the next largest social unit past family. It provides a unique vantage point on how well or how badly our collective lives are unfolding. Neighbors form associations and watches, and in the process they build connectivity, social support, a sense of belonging. The unique vantage point enjoyed by neighbors generates neighborhood scale, neighborhood-specific strategies for dealing with bigger, chronic social issues such as poverty, food insecurity. We can't do everything. There are other levels and scales, obviously, to address these challenges. But as all of us have learned more about the centrality of place, the neighborhood piece of the solution to these problems seems ever more significant. Neighborhood organizations across this city can only benefit from more robust staffing of the Department of Neighborhoods. And as Emily stated a moment ago, given the impressive accomplishments of the last year, the department in question has certainly earned your trust and support, and frankly, neighborhoods deserve this.
Thank you. Next is Jessica Fowler and then Brian Beverly.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Fowler. I do know some of you already from my involvement in Lansing as the co-director of the People's Action League, a campaign volunteer, or as the current board president of Fenner Conservancy. Tonight, I'm speaking to you as a citizen of the city of Lansing, more specifically, a resident of the Baker neighborhood. I have been someone who has lived in Lansing for 40 years, and I do understand the economic issues that Lansing has gone through and is still facing. I'm also someone who absolutely loves the city, and I'm very vocal about that fact. One of the things I do love most about this city is the sense of community that we have here in the department, and the Department of Neighborhoods has played a big role in that. Every day when I drive to and from work, I pass the flowers planted in the Pennsylvania corridor and the mural painted near the Potter Park, and it makes me smile. I think my constant comments on how much I love that mural were what actually led me to my first introduction to Andy Crawford. This past spring, I've been enjoying participating in the Walking Wednesday tours and fulfilled a lifelong dream of touring the Eckert Power Plant, which I grew up right across the river from on Barnes Avenue. Last week, I hiked the trails at Fulton Park and was amazed by the extensive amount of trails that we have right in a park I hadn't even known about previously. But what I really want to talk about is the profound change that I have seen come from the work this department has done in my own neighborhood, the Baker neighborhood. I've been a resident there for 13 years. I bought my house a few years before the housing market crash. Back then, it wasn't as easy to find a gem of a house for the prices that you see now. I looked at 14 different houses and I picked my house and settled in. I grew up a mile away and knew the reputation of the neighborhood, but I found the neighbors around me to be welcoming even if the neighborhood was still a little rough. In the past few years, I've seen more of a change come from the work that Andy and her department have done than I saw in the decade before that. There are more and more homes with updates and tidy yards, neighbors that are getting to know each other, and there are welcoming places for children to play. The biggest change in the neighborhood is the amount of children itself. What was once seen as a place to warn people about driving through is now seen as a place where families are moving back to. Andy has some figures on the exact amount of elementary-age children, and it even actually surprised me, although it really shouldn't have because they're the same kids that I now see waiting at the bus stops in the morning, playing basketball and riding their bikes in the evening. The other night, I actually had to laugh because I caught myself getting off the couch to peek out the window to check on what the noise was that I heard outside. It turned out to be children playing on my street as they were riding skateboards up and down. I sat back down on the couch and happily turned up the volume on the TV a notch because noise from children playing is something that I hope that I hear every night. If the Department of Neighborhood and Citizen Engagement receives this funding, I don't just hope that changes like this will continue to happen, I know that they will happen. This department will continue to make strides in my neighborhood, and it will be able to make changes across the city of Lansing. The work this department does is vital to neighborhoods like my own. This department may not fix the roads in Lansing, but it changes the quality of life for hundreds to thousands of residents by leaps and bounds. I am here to say that it has changed my neighborhood, and it has changed my life.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Brian Beverly and then Elaine Wambolt.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be before you this evening, and I thank you all for your time. My name is Brian Beverly. I am a member of the Invest Health team. I'm here to voice support for the coordinator of neighborhood and civic engagement. I can speak firsthand to the critical role this position has played in community development work, specifically in collaboration with the Invest Health team in Southwest Lansing. This position has leveraged the convening power of the city and served as a liaison to the Southwest Action Group. This has led to growth at the intersection of Pleasant Grove and Holmes, including developing recreational, commercial, and neighborhood meeting space. Andy Crawford and her team have spearheaded this work. I look forward to seeing the neighborhood and civic engagement position supporting continued good work and nurturing a high quality of life in other areas of the city. I fully understand the pressures of tight budgets and prioritizing resources. It is my belief that the Department of Neighborhoods and Civic Engagement is a true asset to our community, and I urge you all to fund it in full. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Elaine Wambolt and then Raleigh Van Fossen.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Wambolt. I'm a South Lansing resident. I'm part of Rejuvenating South Lansing, SWAG, and a coordinator for Neighborhood Watch. First of all, I want to say that this is about priorities. I strongly support the override of Mayor Shore's veto for the 2019-20 budget. This council found the funding to have the chief restructuring officer position. This is a person who will address the more than $700 million unfunded liabilities. This is critical for protecting the City of Lansing's financial security. I have reviewed the budget, shared my concerns, my recommendations at the open budget meetings this year. I have also attended several of the financial health team meetings over the past years. I've listened to their discussions. I was at the financial health team meeting at the Committee of the Whole on February 12th of 2018, and I also made public comment. The financial team shared various problems, concerns, and a report. At that time, it was stated that the City of Lansing was in financial crisis and the action must be taken to secure it. The last thing the City of Lansing needs is to have the state of Michigan take it over. Thank you, council members, for finding a solution to begin on this problem. Mayor Shore plan has budgeted nearly $1.2 million for the Department of Neighborhoods and Citizens Engagement. This is a $35,000 increase over the current fiscal year. This department was created at the end of 2018 by an executive order. Mayor Shore wants to allocate $60,000 to create a new position for this department of the Neighborhood and Citizens Engagement. This is not the time to have another position put in that department. We have only added one police officer and one code compliance officer for the entire city, which is understaffed. Please consider that the 2019-20 budget represents only a 2.8 increase over the current fiscal year, but a 35% increase in the Department of Neighbors and Citizens Engagement. This is according to the Lansing State Journal article, May 23, 2019. For the sake of the City of Lansing retirees and our financial security, please override and veto the proposed budget. We are at a crisis situation. We cannot ignore this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Raleigh Van Fossen, and then Rochelle White.
Thank you, President Wood, Clerk Swope, members of council, and Mayor Shore. My name is Raleigh Van Fossen, and I'm here this evening in two capacities. First, as the Executive Director of Capital Area Housing Partnership, representing our Board of Directors, and secondly, as a resident of the City of Lansing, living on North Jennison in the Old Oakland neighborhood in Ward 4. I'm here tonight because I'd like to speak on the important role that the Department of Neighborhoods and Citizens Engagement has played in Lansing. Since its creation, it has positively assisted CAHP's mission and our overall path and growth here in the community. Through innovative community engagement events like the quarterly neighborhood resource fairs, the monthly roundtables, the Walking Wednesday series, our organization has been able to touch and meet with over 500 Lansing residents this year alone. Events like this have offered our organization a unique opportunity to connect with members of our community, and as a result, our programming has improved, our services have been cross-referred, and our mission has reached new heights. Additionally, Department Director Andy Crawford was appointed to the CAHP board as a non-voting city liaison. This position has been vital to our success as we've grown here in the Lansing community, and this partnership has brought resources to the table that were previously unattainable. Resources including the connection and partnership with National League of Cities, the Home Depot Foundation, and the Baker Partners Meeting. As a homeowner and a resident, I've utilized this department through the creation of the Central Online Neighborhood Database, being able to access my neighborhood president's contact information in a time of need. I've been able to participate in Neighborhoods in Blooms on an annual basis, partnering with my neighbors through a block planting event. And I've been able to attend the annual Love Lansing celebration, as this has created an inclusive environment for all Lansing residents to attend and celebrate the great work and programming happening across all 4 wards. As a participant of the inaugural Citizens Academy, I've had additional input and opportunities to take a deep dive in how our city government and the various departments have worked. It's programming like this that puts our city on the map. As a young person building a foundation here, the opportunities that this department has offered has made my time in Lansing uniquely enjoyable. My hope is that as members of council, you understand the positive impact that this department has had and the investment it will bring. For Capital Area Housing Partnership, our mission has been able to grow through this creation of this department, and we can only see that the continued investment will ensure that our mission continues to connect with more Lansing residents. I've asked if you haven't yet attended a quarterly resource fair, a Walking Wednesday, or any of the other events hosted by this department, I truly encourage you to do so, because the majority of folks that I'm connected with, the network I hang out with on the weekends, my neighbors, we support investment like this. I think investing in a department in this capacity is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our final speaker is Rachel White.
Hello, my name is Rachel White. I am a resident of Southwest Lansing. I own a business in Southwest Lansing. I volunteer in Southwest Lansing. I am currently the president of the Southwest Action Group, also known as SWAG. The reason I'm here tonight is to speak on behalf of the members of SWAG who are not in support of the $60,000 increase for the Department of Neighborhood and Citizen Engagement. Now, this might seem contrary to what should be expected from us, considering the fact that she has been a large support and was one of the founding individuals of the area to help make SWAG. I myself have been there since then. Many of the members of SWAG have been there since then. The one person we don't see now is her. We also don't see members from her office. That is troubling to us. Once we had secured the property, contact dissolved, and that was not on our part. So we do have a problem to finance an administrative assistant, specifically when there's been no rhyme or reason to her disappearance. In building capacity with other areas, she may be helping with that as well as her vistas. I know that we are continuing to do that alone. So Southwest Lansing has been left to float again like we have previously. So when we think about the need for where $60,000 can go, our current concern is not necessarily in the Department of Neighborhood and Citizens Engagement for an administrative assistant to oversee programs that are currently running well on their own due to having updated email lists. We see that the $60,000 can be used for infrastructure, city supports, public safety, things that will keep our citizens here so that they can maintain the engagement that we expect from this department. So for those reasons, we are requesting that City Council override the veto. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was our final speaker, so we're to council consideration of legislative matters. The mayor delivered to my office a notice of veto, which I forwarded to City Council. And pursuant to the city charter, the mayor has the right to perform line item vetoes of the budget, which is what this was. And the council, within 2 weeks, can vote to take a further vote to reapprove those items, thereby overriding the veto. It does require a 2/3 vote of City Council.
Mr. Smirka, if you would explain procedure for us.
It's a procedure set in the charter. It's commonly known as the override of a veto. The mayor has the authority under the charter to veto any line item in the budget. And so there were line items made by this council in its budget of taking $60,000 from neighborhood and citizen engagement and transferring it to the mayor's office. So that was the transfer that was vetoed, and the notice of veto and the procedures set forth in the charter were followed by the mayor. The charter says that because of that notice, the action of council shall not become law without the further affirmative vote of 2/3, which is the 2/3 serving, which is 6. So to take action on this item, a council member, if there is one that wants to do it, is to move to continue the changes made in the budget by the city council in removing the $60,000 and transferring it to the mayor's office. This is commonly known as the motion, an override motion.
Okay. With that, I'm going to pass the gavel to ceremonially to the Vice President. And I would make a motion to override the mayor's veto and transfer the money back to, from the neighborhood and citizen engagement department to the mayor's operating budget.
It's been moved by the president to override the mayor's veto and return the veto dollars to the chief restructuring officer, chief strategy officer from the Office of Neighborhood and Citizen Engagement. Is there any discussion?
I'll take the gavel back. We have a request from the mayor to address the council, and he will address it at this time, and then we'll take comments from council members.
Thank you, Madam President. Clearly, I don't want to engage in debate, but I appreciate the opportunity to make a statement, so thank you for that. As you all know, and I appreciate all the members of the public that are here on both sides of the issue, today the Lansing City Council is deciding on whether or not to override my veto of the usage of $60,000 out of our $220 million budget. First, let me state that I'm proud of the budget that we passed. The administration held 8 participatory budget meetings and heard from many residents at these, as well as through many other community events, social media, meetings, and other contact with residents of the city of Lansing. The budget I presented came from the programs that we broke out the programs that we have, and we built this budget after significant citizen input. My priorities, both in running for office and in my first year in office, have and continue to be public safety, infrastructure, economic development, and neighborhoods. This is no secret. The adopted budget included new dollars for increases in both personnel and equipment for our police and fire department. It included increases for economic development as we added facade dollars, arts dollars, a new planner, and yet another code compliance officer. It included increases for infrastructure with new dollars for roads, sidewalks, and separation of sewer and water, which will ensure that our rivers are clean and not polluted. My proposed budget, as we all know, also included an increase for our neighborhoods with the addition of a neighborhood coordinator. The neighborhoods were identified as the #2 issue in a recent poll done by the Lansing Chamber of Commerce, and this is a $60,000 position that would allow us to do even more than we have been doing. I had a whole list of things to talk about that we've been doing in the neighborhoods department, but I think many of the members of the public here have covered it, so I'm not going to repeat that. I do want to add that earlier this year we were awarded a $10,000 award for our Lansing SAVE program from the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And that's just one of the examples of the incredible work that we do internally and innovation and work that we do with other parties like the school district. We do all this with a neighborhood, with a director and an administrative assistant. This isn't fluff to me, and I'm disappointed that folks would say this is non-essential. Resources for our neighbors, in addition to the public safety work that we do and the beautification we do and code compliance and other things, creates places where people want to live, in neighborhoods where people want to live. And we certainly want people to live in Lansing and to have attractive neighborhoods and resources. I'm happy that we were able to agree on the need for a chief strategy and restructuring officer. This is a proposal by the financial health team, and it was a good one. We certainly need to evaluate our structure and make it so that we can afford to pay for services in the future. This position is certainly going to be difficult, and council, as I think was stated many times, will have many tough votes ahead of them, as was discussed when passing the budget. We're certainly looking forward to what efficiencies are discovered internally, and I believe as Councilman Jackson in the debate pointed out during budget passage, I expect there'll be proposals that we're going to have to decide on regarding offerings to our employees in terms of benefits. This is not going to be easy, and this officer will be an asset and a fresh set of eyes. Whoever said it, I agree, a fresh set of eyes on the issue. The decision that we have that council has before them today is whether the city should pay $192,000 for this position, or the city should pay $132,000 for this position and have an added $60,000 for a neighborhoods position and have greater capacity in our neighborhoods. This decision today is not whether we can use more money for roads and sidewalks or another police officer or a firefighter or code compliance. Those were all increased in the budget. The $60,000 to add in would only be about half of what we would need to fund a new police officer or half of a new firefighter, and it would be a very small road fix. But either way, that's not the decision that's before us today. The decision today is, do we override the rejection of the additional $60,000, creating a $192,000 position? That $192,000 would make this person the highest paid person in the city. It would be higher paid than anyone else. That for me is simply too much for one person to make. I know that they'll work hard, but everybody works hard. All of our cabinet directors, all of our employees, everybody works hard. And for me, it would be irresponsible to pay $192,000 for someone just coming into a position. I'm confident that the $132,000 that I work with council to get for this position will be enough to pay for someone to get the work done. We can identify a benefits package, so that $132,000 will be all salary. So we will make sure that we can get the right person. That will make them the second highest cabinet position if the veto is sustained. Budgets are a statement of a priority for a community. Together, we passed a $220 million budget, which is about $139.5 million general fund, and I'm excited for the work that we're going to do in the next year. This $60,000 is not controversy. It's a disagreement, and that's okay. From the beginning, I've said that the mayor and council can disagree on things, and we can do it respectfully. So thank you, Madam President, for allowing me to speak today. I appreciate the respect that we're able to show for each other, and I look forward to the decision.
Thank you. Council comments. Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Madam President. And I appreciate everybody's opinion and voicing their concerns today. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your day. It's a beautiful day out. Appreciate you, Mayor. It's my duty to advocate for the Southeast Lansing. And until tonight, I haven't heard anybody speak in favor of this position. So this is where I'm standing. I wish I would have seen the veto for a police officer or firefighter. Obviously, that's not the case. But so my vote is still going to be the same as what it was. So no hard feelings, hopefully. And I appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you.
Other Councilmember Washington.
Thank you, Madam President. I think we all know coming here tonight, this is simply symbolic because this veto override will not pass. And we all knew it coming in. I've enjoyed all of the soliloquies, all of what is clearly a ton of preparation that everybody put into their statements. And I will also report, I have not heard one word of support for this position until tonight. And I imagine people live in silos. I see all the nonprofits here, so I appreciate you all getting together and coming down, in numbers. We need you. We appreciate you. And I'm going to say I appreciate Andy Crawford. I appreciate what she does. I appreciate what her staff does. This department is not going to go away. This department will grow in the future. This position, I can't believe there's so much discussion over this one position. I've had many discussions with the mayor. I'd like to see Andrea Crawford stay in town a little more often. I think that would help a lot. But she doesn't work for me, she works for the mayor. This was more symbolic of shared sacrifice. We desperately need a restructuring officer. $192,000, that's not all salary, Mayor. That's equipment, that's travel, that's everything that goes with the position. And if it's not a contract position, then it's also benefits. But everybody who knows about a restructuring officer, it's going in just like going into a business that's crumbling. It takes a very specific skill set. You are not going to be able to pull off just any financial person off the street. These are very, very specific positions that require high level of skill. So you're darn right they're going to get paid well. All of the cabinet staff gets paid really well. I think they all do a good job. Frankly, I think all of us on council do a good job too. We all work really hard. None of us take this lightly. Shared sacrifice, we asked the small businesses to take sacrifice by reducing their grants. We asked our arts community to take a sacrifice by reducing their grants. Council took a sacrifice by not vetoing for the position that we asked for, but the mayor took out. The city attorney is considering not filling a position as sacrifice. 6 firefighters were requested. There is their sacrifice. This isn't Andrea Crawford making a sacrifice. It was a symbolic, shared sacrifice. Do we need the position? I don't know. Maybe next year. Maybe we can get our position next year that we desperately need. We had 5 staff people. We have now, 2? Working for 8 people? We're stretched too. We're all stretched. We are in very difficult times. I fear that many people don't have the sense of urgency that we must have. I'm not going to poo-poo infrastructure. I have a child that his grandmother said he's tripped over the sidewalk and hurt his leg twice. I had another gentleman pull up in fact, he's sitting here, his pant leg, and where he fell. Why did I have to sit in the right-of-way with an elderly woman and wait 20 minutes for her ambulance to show up. We are understaffed. We are in critical positions. Why are my residents telling me I don't bother calling the police because they can't get here or they won't get here? We are so short-staffed when it comes to public safety. Our roads are a mess, particularly in my ward. I can't speak for anybody else's, and I will take all the road money for the city. Thank you. But we all knew coming here that this position would get approved. This is simply symbolic. We're asking for shared sacrifice. Our employees have given over $200 million. This is a $60,000 position. I appreciate all the things, I've gone to all of the events. I went to Lego night. I've gone to all of it. It's all fun. I'm not saying it's wasted. I'm just saying we need to share the sacrifice. So you all will get the position that Andrea Crawford wants. We all knew coming here that she would get it. But we have to do this. We have to get the message out that there is an urgency and it's going to have to be a shared sacrifice.
Thank you. Councilmember Hussein.
I'll be brief. So much of what I was going to say has been said. First, I just want to acknowledge neighborhoods and the importance of neighborhoods. This is not necessarily a discussion on, or I should say, discussion that has individuals on either side of the fence, when it comes to neighborhoods. Neighborhoods are deeply, deeply, I should say paramount to everything that we do here in the city. I, as a council member, am deeply immersed in the neighborhoods. I work, there's so many of those folks are actually in the gallery right now, but I work every single night, every single weekend with our neighborhood leaders, trying to push our neighborhoods in Southwest Lansing forward. And so neighborhoods we understand that neighborhoods are an absolute priority. We didn't need, and as much as we appreciated the affirmation of the reinforcement, we didn't need a chamber poll to tell us that. We know that. The individuals that are on the front lines every single day know how important the neighborhoods are. But I will tell you that in my work, what people, when they talk about strong, viable neighborhoods, what they're really talking about is ensuring that the roads and sidewalks are taken care of. They're talking about ensuring that we have a strong public safety response, a strong public safety presence in our neighborhoods. They're making, obviously the connectivity and things of that nature are important, but what about code compliance? What about premise? Those are the things that I hear every single night when I'm meeting with neighborhood associations, neighborhood watch groups. I've seen you at many of the meetings, so you hear the same things. So we really need to focus on ensuring that we are providing that at a high level, and we know that it becomes more and more challenging each year, and that's why we supported the Chief Strategy Officer in hoping that they can take a deep delve into the city operations and finances to ensure that we can do more of, basically funding of the critical services and positions moving forward. When it comes to scope of neighborhoods and citizen engagement, because this will go through, I do expect that scope to expand substantially. When we talk about Neighbors in Bloom, so many folks talked about Neighbors in Bloom tonight. That was offered far before 2018. When we talk about Love Lansing was taken on by the city in 2015, before this ever was a department. When we talk about neighborhood grants, those have been around for a number of years. And I could go on. I believe Andrea Crawford does a great job, and I think she's done a great job here for a number of years. And I don't want my next line of comments to devalue the work that she's done, but I was a bit dismayed in terms of some of the commentary at the podium tonight regarding Southwest Lansing. The story of Southwest Lansing is much more involved and much more complex than what a few individuals conveyed here at the podium. When you talk about Southwest Lansing, the efforts really started even before I arrived, with the starting of Rejuvenating South Lansing back in 2015. The Southwest Lansing Initiative, those dollars from the MEDC came to Southwest Lansing in 2015 before I was ever a council member and before Andrea Crawford was with the city, to be candid. The subsequent Southwest Action Plan was put together in 2016. We moved mountains to get people into those meetings, to get people conversing about Southwest Lansing's issues, and we advocated hard. So that started far, far before this was ever a department. I want to thank Councilmember Dunbar. Far before this was a department, she worked very hard to bring money from the Arts Council to Southwest Lansing and really got the ball rolling on a discussion of a town square. I want to thank Councilwoman Wood, who has worked diligently over the past several years. I've been on public safety every year that I've been on council, and she has been right there making sure that she's championing the cause for Southwest Lansing, and particularly when you talk about some of our spaces that are just not safe. So those conversations started far before this was ever a department. I want to thank Rachel White. Rachel White, in addition to probably working 70 to 80 hours as a small business owner, she is up every single morning. It seems 4, 5, 6, shooting off emails, putting together plans, advocating for Southwest Lansing. David Weiner is incredible, have appreciated his partnership in Southwest Lansing. We have a few heroes of Southwest Lansing with us as well, in Larry McConnell, and Mike Redding, Elaine Wombalt. I just really struggle with how Southwest Lansing's forward movement was conveyed by a few members at the podium. Robert Wood was referenced. The initial round of that financing came back in 2016. That is what convened the Invest Health team. And so that was far before this was ever a department. So again, when we talk about, there have been so many fantastic things that have happened in the city of Lansing, and obviously I'm speaking specifically to Southwest Lansing, but so much of that was because of neighborhood leaders, because of business associations, because of neighborhood associations, and Andrea Crawford. She deserves a lot of credit. But again, if we're going to continue to increase the staffing, increase the resources to this department, I expect above and beyond results. And so we will be having that conversation, I think, in 2021. The travel was discussed, and I think the conversation has merit. Andrea Crawford is a very talented individual, and we do expect her to be here. When you talk about the fact that she's the director of Lansing's neighborhood in the Citizens Engagement Department, we expect that this department is deeply engaging our citizens in our neighborhoods. It's fantastic that other cities across the nation want to learn from us, but at the end of the day, this is not the U.S. Department of Neighbors and Citizens Engagement. So it is our taxpayers that are funding this, and they expect their neighborhoods and their citizens to be engaged and engaged deeply. And then I guess I would have just expected, when we look at alternatives to this potential position, I would have expected we have a citizen advocate in the mayor's office. We have faith-based initiatives in the mayor's office. We have a community outreach coordinator in the mayor's office. We then have a neighborhoods and citizen engagement director, an administrative assistant. We have a number of interns and vistas in that department. I would have thought that, as we're turning away the fire department and their request for 6 positions, as we're turning away City Council and their request, code compliance and their request, I would have thought that even if just a move of symbolism, that we would have worked to be a little bit more efficient and a little bit smarter with our dollars, because again, we are basically saying no to critical positions and critical services. So I struggle with that aspect of it as well. But again, this is not a conversation about Andrea Crawford, her value to the city. I do believe she's a very talented person. I have appreciated the opportunity to partner with her. I just struggle with this for the reasons stated. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President Spatafor.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, to everybody who came out tonight, thank you for speaking to us, letting your opinion be heard. I know that some of you, this is a regular thing for you, some not so regular, and some this might have been your first time. So I know that I won't speak for everyone, but I know everyone here does appreciate it. I have received several calls and emails, messages, Facebook, people stopping me on the street, in fact, on this, on both sides of the issue. But many of them were heartfelt stories like we heard from Ms. Fowler this evening, extolling the value of the neighborhood citizen engagement efforts. I believe quality of life is so much more than roads and sidewalks. It's about so many intangibles and so many other factors we can't put in a spreadsheet. Engaging our citizens and finding ways for them to love their city contributes to quality of life in ways you can feel when you're out in those neighborhoods, which all of you can relate to, I know. Funding this position expands our capacity for those quality of life and engagement efforts. It does not disinvest in our roads, does not disinvest in our public safety, or even the ability for the city to get our financial house in order. So while some of you watching, listening, sitting around this table may disagree with my vote this evening, I will be voting to invest in our capacity to engage our neighborhoods and citizens, and we'll be voting against the veto override, and I thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is exciting. It really is, because, it's like a big issue. And Councilwoman Washington, You said we all know what's gonna happen. I still don't know. Nobody tells me anything, I swear. Like, has it been determined? I swear it hasn't. I don't know. So there's a few things that cross my mind. One is that, you know, to council members, we went through the whole budget hearing process, asked a gazillion questions to all the department heads and everybody else, and we all took notes and we all did our thing, but we didn't have really any amendments but for the financial health team's recommendation a week before to come through with this position, and all the amendments that we proposed, with the exception of my sustainability management, all the amendments went towards that position. So it just kind of makes me wonder what happened to all of our vetting previously. So it really makes 2 years in a row where we didn't really do too much. And for the administration and the mayor, we really only touched the smallest fraction out of the whole budget for really your first 2 years. I think this year is the first one where we did an amendment. I'm not sure. Last year wasn't too much, but this year we just added a spot that you pretty much endorsed. And about that position, the chief restructuring officer, I think it's gonna be a hard position. The things that concern me is how important it is, but how still, I would call it still political, because it's in your cabinet or right with you, and he's gonna have probably recommendations that may or may not, you know, support everybody. And who's gonna make that decision? Is it still you? I hope. I'm not sure, but the recommendations are probably gonna be professional, and they're probably not gonna always, you know, seep well with people. So I would be curious, you know, kind of like what's the oversight and how's that going and what's going on, especially given this is the negotiation year where we already have a chief negotiating officer. And I think the veto is not friendly given, again, the percentage of the budget that we're actually touching. So, you know, but there's still a few things that I have to consider. And I see Judge Ward here. She's a judge. This is like where we actually get to be a judge. So we put the weight of what it heard. And the biggest thing is, can both positions be funded? The only thing I've heard from the mayor is that they can be. And when I first heard 190-something thousand, I was like, wow, that's a lot. Maybe we can also do a chief or a sustainability manager with that. We can do both. It's so much. You know, that didn't pass. But now, can we do both of these positions? And unless somebody like Angie, since you're probably the leading expert here, tells me that we can't, or is it that we have to list the position for that 132 and hope a qualified person gets it? Is that what we're hoping on? Seems like a lot. It seems like we could do that. And one thing I also know is the whole purpose and idea of the neighborhood civic engagement is important to people. We knocked doors and campaigned the same year in the summer, 2017, 2 years ago. And people were all about engagement and wanted to volunteer and kind of wanted to be more involved. And it seems like that department does this. And it seems like a position in that department would help do those things that I know is a priority. As far as the reviews, I've received mixed reviews. I understand Loretta Stanaway, because on Facebook there is, if that's an authoritative place, but there are a lot of people who, you know, are about the basics, the roads, the police, the fire, and that's perfectly fine. I agree that those are strong priorities, but I don't think I would agree that we should put everything in that and not focus on anything else that a lot of people would support. Especially, I always get upset about roads. It's a priority, they're bad, but that $60,000 might fix one pothole. Or, again, a small fraction of a road for actual repair. So it's a major problem, but the money we're talking about moving around is just so minuscule towards that goal that it's not comparable to what like an extra position in a police department or with the neighborhood civic engagement. So I'm also surprised why there is so much opposition, given that we can possibly fund both positions, because when we're here for our consideration today, it's just whether to override the veto, and the veto says $60,000 not towards the CRSO, but towards the neighborhood engagement person. So basically, if we didn't override the veto, we would just be agreeing to pay the chief restructuring officer that much more money. And I'm probably gonna make my vote on the assumption that those numbers are adequate to fund both of them. So that's where I'm at right now. I would like somebody to, if there is anything contrary to the two positions being funded by that amount, you know, someone could say something, because that's mostly where I'm at.
Other council member comments? Councilmember Washington?
Just really quick, I want to wrap this up. I want to add to that, Mayor Shore, I think Andrea does a great job. I really do. So this is not a statement on her. It totally is not. But I also need to make folks understand. I was talking to a woman just today, and she was furious. She thinks that council and the mayor are going back to the way the previous mayor and council was. And that was very, very troubling to me, that this $60,000 is causing people to think that the mayor is being unreasonable, that council's trying to obstruct the mayor, that there's this infighting, and because I heard it just minutes before I came in this door and the woman was furious, I really have to let people know at home that nothing could be further from the truth. We are going to disagree on business things, and if we don't, you should be really concerned. We have a government of checks and balances, and it's in place for a reason, and it goes all the way to the federal government. It would be dangerous if we agreed lockstep on absolutely everything. But that does not mean that we do not have immense respect for our mayor, because we do. And that does not mean that the mayor does not have immense respect for us, because he does. And we agree on 99.9% of the things, and that may be too high for checks and balances. But don't anybody walk away from here and say anything about this being a judgment on Andrea Crawford, or that this is the beginnings of what we had with a previous administration, because neither one is true. And I couldn't take this vote without stating that, because those are dangerous things to put out there.
Are there any other council member comments? Councilmember Hussein.
Just very quickly, and I don't want to make this about Southwest Lansing, but because it was brought up as a conversation piece, and then I basically stated that through omission, some people's work was devalued. Just very quickly for the record, I also want to, and I thanked a number of people, but I want to thank Scott Dane and Brett Kaczynski, who have been amazing advocates for Southwest Lansing. Without those two, Beacon Field 2 does not happen. They've been advocating for that dating back to 2015 when they actually were working out Ferris Park. I want to thank Lansing Economic Area Partnership. I think in particular, Bob Trezise and Mr. Chris Klein. Chris Klein has been amazing for Southwest Lansing in the corner, or the intersection of Pleasant Grove and Holmes. I want to thank the Greater Lansing Realtors Association, who saw value in bringing a pop-up park to the corner of Pleasant Grove and Holmes. Very much appreciated. I want to thank the citizens of Southwest Lansing who have worked tirelessly on the moving forward of Southwest Lansing, the advocacy for Southwest Lansing, the raising of the dollars for the acquisition of the property for the Town Square property, et cetera. The Lansing Harmony Celebration Committee. This group decided, and there's not one paid member of this group, decided that they wanted a festival in Southwest Lansing. They appreciated everything that was being done in the historic core of Old Town, Downtown, and Real Town, but they wanted to see something outside of Downtown, Old Town, and Real Town, and so they got together and they said, you know what, nobody else will do it, we'll do it. And so again, a number of people that are not being paid a dime, that have rolled up their sleeves and worked tirelessly in Southwest Lansing, I think they need to be recognized as part of this conversation. And I think that does it. Thank you.
Other council member comments? I'm going to make a statement, and then we're going to go along go ahead with the vote. First of all, I want to thank, as Council Vice President Spatafor did, everyone that came down this evening and addressed us, as well as those that have approached us on the street and have sent us emails and calls. I have sat as a neighborhood representative and a council member for over 30 years in budget processes and listened to budgets. During that period of time, have advocated over and over again for issues and things that are needed in neighborhoods. This particular budget, we added a police officer, which many of us would have liked to have seen more, but at least we added a police officer. Last year, we were advocating for additional code officers, and a code officer was added with this budget. We've heard over and over again about roads and sidewalks, and there was additional money for that. This council, when they put their budget together, advocated for additional resources for our office. We have desperately needed those resources for a number of years. We are down to 2 staff people, and as Councilmember Washington said, at one time there were over 5 staff people that were working with council. When the budget came forward, as we were looking and talking and listening to people, a number of us were trying to figure out how we could add additional police officers, things like that. So we stepped aside from what we wanted for us to be able to do a better job for you by having a person here. One of the things that we did when we put that position together was we looked at what the cost was for the salary and the benefits. Repeatedly, I've sat through, again, multiple budget times, and I can even remember Angie sitting there as we've been putting money together for a position and going, but you didn't figure in the benefits. So when the mayor says that there is $134,000, if you divide that in half, figuring that half of that is benefits, we're talking $67,000 for a position. If you're looking at $192,000, you're looking at a position that would pay $86,000. I did hear Mr. Mayor say that they would look for benefits, but in a balanced budget, I have to assume all that money's been taken care of. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at this through this prism that we have here. We have committed, this council committed several years ago to be supportive and work with the financial health team and trying to do a number of things. We put together a mission statement that we had for council. We talked about doing 5-year budgets. We talked about performance-based budgets. When this came to light, that this was a request that was out there, a number of us looked at it and said, okay, let's set aside that police officer that we're thinking about. Let's set aside that additional code officer. Let's set aside our position that we have wanted for our office and look at how we can put money together. So as we looked at that, there were a number of things that individuals of us wanted that didn't happen. I know Councilmember Jackson really wanted to make sure that he had someone here that was looking at our energy efficiencies and our climate stability. I know Councilmember Hussein was very concerned about having those additional dollars in facades. I know the mayor was extremely diligent about wanting to make sure that there was additional help in the neighborhood in citizen engagement. But we all sat back and we said, How can we come up with enough funding to make this possible so that someone can be hired for this position? Now, part of that was we talked about the fact whether this was going to be an ongoing position or a contract position. And those are some of the details that, as Councilmember Jackson talked about a few minutes ago, we're going to be working out. We're going to be setting up a meeting, and we're going to be meeting with the administration, members of council, the unions, and the FHT team to talk about those issues. Tonight is, as Councilmember Washington said, more symbolic. We have heard, we don't have Councilmember Spitzley here, so that's one vote that isn't here. Councilmember Vice President Spatafor has indicated what his vote is. You need 6 votes to pass. And so right now, in listening to some of the comments that have been made, the likelihood is the 6 votes aren't there. But we will move on. Whatever the outcome of this is the mayor will either work with the fact that that position is not being funded, it doesn't go off the org chart, and if he could find funding someplace else to put into that position could very easily be funded. Or that position will be funded and we will have less dollars as we're looking at filling this position. But we will move forward in creating this position. And that's the most important thing that we have before us this evening, is the fact that we are creating something that will look at our strategies and how we are working within our departments. What departments are duplicating services? What areas are not being run as efficiently as they could be? That's not a slam on the mayor. Those are just things that happen within large corporations, whether we're talking about GM or whether we're talking about the city of Lansing. We also have to look at, and we've asked this question repeatedly of the financial health team, and that is, how do we create more revenues? Because you can save as much money as you want, but if the revenues aren't coming in to help increase the things that we need to spend money on, we're not going to have that. We've talked about our legacy costs. We have been working with our employees. We've been working with the retirement systems. Changes have been made, but not enough to take care of what that deficit is. So, as we move forward, we will move forward looking for the best for this city. This vote isn't a slap in the face at anyone. It's not at the neighborhood and citizen engagement department. It's not at the mayor. It's not at those of us who feel that this is different and that we wanted to see this position filled differently. But we will move forward. And with that, I call the question. And roll call vote.
On the motion, which is to readopt the vetoed items in Resolution 2019-155, thereby overriding the veto, and a yes vote would be to override the veto. Councilmember Dunbar. No. Councilmember Garza. Yes. Councilmember Hussein. Yes. Councilmember Jackson. No. Councilmember Spatafor. No. Councilmember Washington. Yes. Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
4 yeas, 3 nays, the motion is not adopted. And we are to a motion of excused absence.
We need a motion for excused absence. Vice President Spatafor.
I move to excuse Councilmember Spitzley.
We have a motion to excuse Councilmember Spitzley. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed.
We are to remarks by council members.
Do we have remarks by council members? Are there any remarks by council members? We do have a meeting next Monday on the 10th, so if unless there's something that's coming up this weekend that Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to reconfirm that this June's second Saturday in the Second Ward, my constituent contact meeting is canceled due to open houses and busy family schedules. So we will reconvene in July.
Councilmember Hussein.
Two quick announcements. The Lansing Eaton Neighborhood Organization will be meeting this Thursday at 4000 Wood Creek Lane. That's at the Wood Creek Achievement Center. So any resident, any business owner north of Jolly, west of Waverly, all the way to the river is not only welcome but encouraged to attend. And also I will be having my constituent contact meeting this Saturday, Elfrida Schmidt Southside Community Center on Wise Road. That's from 10 to 12 noon. We will have coffee. We will have donuts, area representatives. And we'll be on hand to answer all of your questions, and we will talk at length about City of Lansing and Southwest Lansing issues. Hope to see you there.
Councilmember Jackson, then Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. I know we didn't have a place for events, but I wanted to announce an event tomorrow. It's a screening of a movie called Owned, A Tale of Two Americas. It basically deals with, explores the racist roots of American housing policy and details the choices that led to I don't want to go through it all, but basically that's what it's about. Tomorrow at the Lansing Public Media Center, 2500 South Washington, from 6 to 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dunbar.
I just wanted to remind folks that the South Lansing Farmers Market is this Thursday. It is always on Thursday every week until the end of October. It's at St. Casimir at 800 West Barnes. There are kids' activities and music, and produce is coming in, early harvest, and there's just a lot going on. It's from 3 to 7. Come on down. We accept credit cards and EBT, and of course, cash. Cash is always good. And I wanted to thank everyone who reached out to me in the last couple of weeks about my mom.
Thank you,
I thought I could do that without crying.
No, I know. I know.
You know, it's not a good place to be when it happens, and I know that Councilmember Jackson said to me today, we just joined a club, you know, that everybody's going to belong to someday. And it sucks, but she had a great life, and she went in her sleep just like she wanted to. I just wasn't ready. Thanks.
Thank you. It is mayor's comments. Oh, Councilmember Washington, I'm sorry.
Joan Nelson sitting in the audience. I need to announce the Allen Neighborhood Market. It's every Wednesday at the Allen Neighborhood Center, 2:30 to 7. It's amazing. There's always music. There's always, all the neighborhood people are there. That is the place all the cool kids are on Wednesday night. So make sure you get out and go to the Allen Neighborhood Market. Thank you, Kathy, for reminding me.
Mayor Shore.
Thank you. I'll take the opportunity to remind everyone that Wednesday we are doing our Walking Wednesday, and we are in Scott Woods, so that should be interesting to check out. Friday, hope everyone's ready to get their groove on. Common Ground, the first installment is I Love the 90s at Coley Law School Stadium, so if you don't have your tickets, get them. Should be a lot of fun. And then Saturday morning at 9 a.m. is the Mayor's Family River Walk, which has been done for many years, and but for the first time ever, it's going to be a walk and a run. So there'll be a 5K and a walk, and you're going to see me running the 5K, not well, and then huffing it back to try and meet up with everybody as they walk. This is what I've been told, so I'm going to do it. My wife and my chief of staff have decided to run, and I'm expecting Jackson to be there because he'll probably do it and lap me twice. But I hope everybody will come out. It's always a lot of fun. Last year was the first time I got to lead it, and it was definitely fun. So everybody's welcome at Potter Park at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Thank you.
Okay, with that, Mr. Clerk, I know there isn't a spot on there, but do you have any announcements?
No, I don't believe so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We do have a council meeting next Monday on June 10th, and so just want to remind the public, we are adjourned.